Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 12th Annual Patient-Reported Outcome Consortium Workshop being held virtually for the first time. We are delighted that over 500 people registered for the workshop overall, and we have over 130 attendees at this time, and people are still joining. So I'll be doing some introductory information and then going into the PRO Consortium overview. We're happy to see so many familiar names, and we truly miss being in person together in the Sheraton Silver Spring Ballroom. We've put together a really great program for this virtual workshop, highlighting cutting-edge topics and research in the clinical outcome assessment field. As a reminder, the welcome email message that you received includes the welcome letter, the workshop agenda, workshop presenter and panelist information, along with links to the posters and to the feedback form. My name is Sonya Eremenco, and I'm the director of the PRO Consortium. I'm honored to be stepping into Stephen Kunz's shoes to provide the PRO Consortium update to start off our workshop this year. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. All attendee lines will be muted during the workshop. We will be recording each workshop session. These recordings will be available on the c-path website on the PRO Consortium webpage, along with the slides by the end of May. Feel free to share them with your colleagues who are unable to join us over the next 2 days. We will not be using the WebEx Q&A function for the workshop. Instead of sending in written questions, you will have the opportunity to ask questions verbally for the sessions that include a questions and answers portion. Our intent is to recreate the interaction that we value in the workshop and to enable dialogue between the audience and panelists. If you'd like to ask a question, please open your participants panel and raise your hand by clicking the icon in the lower right corner of the panel. The moderator will call on those who are in the queue, and the host will unmute you to ask your question. We will do our best to get to as many of your questions as possible during the time available during each session. I'm just letting you know this early, and each session moderator will remind you how to ask questions during each session. c-path is a public-private partnership which receives funding from the US FDA as well as non-governmental sources. The contents presented today are the views of each speaker and do not represent endorsement by FDA, HHS, or the US government. In case this is the first time you are hearing about the Critical Path Institute and the PRO Consortium, I'd like to provide you with some background about who we are and what we do. c-path is an independent, nonprofit organization which aims to accelerate medical product development through creating standards and drug development tools that aid in the scientific evaluation of the efficacy and safety of new therapies. c-path consists of over 16 consortia and other collaborative efforts, including stakeholders such as regulatory, industry, academia, patient organizations, and technology experts. The PRO Consortium is one of these consortia. PRO Consortium was formed in late 2008 in cooperation with FDA's CDER and the pharmaceutical industry. It includes 24 member firms who are pharmaceutical companies. Other participants in our efforts include representatives of government agencies, clinical consultants, patients, academic researchers, and CROs who partner with us in the development of PRO measures and other COAs. Our 24 member firms are shown here. We greatly appreciate their support and continued commitment to the mission and goals of the PRO Consortium. The PRO Consortium members are pharmaceutical firms who work together pre-competitively in collaboration with c-path, FDA, other government agencies, and patient organizations toward the qualification of publicly available COAs for use in clinical trials, where COA-based endpoints are used to support product labeling claims. The goals of the PRO Consortium are to enable pre-competitive collaboration with FDA input, share the costs of developing new endpoint measures or modifying existing measures, and avoid development of multiple endpoint measures for the same purpose. In order to obtain FDA qualification of COAs that will ultimately facilitate FDA's review of medical products by standardizing COAs used as endpoint measures for specific concepts of interest and context of use. The PRO Consortium governance consists of a coordinating committee, subcommittees, and working groups convened by the coordinating committee. The goal of these therapeutic area working groups is to generate or compile the evidence to enable new or existing COAs to be qualified by FDA for use in treatment trials to evaluate clinical benefit. There are 9 active working groups with 15 COAs in the qualification program, including 12 PRO measures, 1 observer-reported outcome measure or OBSRA measure, 1 performance outcome measure or PERFO measure, and 1 activity monitor-based outcome measure. 4 of the working groups have completed their initial goal, which includes qualification by FDA of 2 asthma diaries and symptom measures for non-small cell lung cancer and depression for use in drug development. The consensus-defined MFSAF version 4 has been endorsed by FDA, although it was not formally qualified. Publications for the asthma and non-small cell lung cancer measures are in progress, and we hope to have them published in the coming year. These measures are actively being licensed for use in clinical trials. More details about these measures, including item content, available translations, as well as information about how to license them, can be found at the website shown here, www.c-path.eu.org. And we are very happy to announce our most recent qualification. The latest c-path measure to be qualified by FDA COA program, the Diary for Irritable Bowel Syndrome Symptoms, Constipation, or DIBS-C. It was qualified on December 18, 2020. Information is available on FDA's Qualified COAs website shown here. Licensing information on this measure will be added to the c-path.eu.org website in the coming months, and preparation of a manuscript for publication is in progress. The IBS Working Group has 2 more measures in the qualification process program, which I will touch on later, so its work continues. Now, I would like to provide brief updates on the activities within the 9 active working groups since April 2020, when we provided a slide presentation on their status because the workshop was canceled last year due to the pandemic. So I'll start off with the CHF working group, chronic heart failure. This group is working toward qualification of 3 measures: an activity monitor-based endpoint measure of physical activity and 2 PRO measures that were developed by Amgen and provided to the working group to move forward for qualification. These 2 measures are the Chronic Heart Failure Symptom Scale, or CHF-SS, and the Chronic Heart Failure Impact Scale, or CHF-IS. Since April 2020, we've been working on qualification plans for the 2 PRO measures. These are in progress, and we have completed a qualitative research study that was funded by FDA's Drug Development Tool Research Grant with persons with CHF to explore meaningfulness of day-to-day physical activities potentially accessible with an activity monitor. Tomorrow's session on activity monitors will include initial findings from this qualitative research study. The Cognition Working Group is working toward qualification of the University of California, San Diego Performance-Based Skills Assessment, 3-domain, or UPSA 3D. Since April 2020, we have been studying this measure, and with the accelerated movement toward technology-enabled remote assessments and impact of the need to conduct assessments remotely in light of the pandemic and other factors, the working group is considering switching from the UPSA 3D to the Virtual Reality Functional Capacity Assessment Tool, or VRFCAT, which is a touchscreen computer-based assessment. In either case, we do need to do additional qualitative research. So we are currently working on the planning for this additional qualitative research and the planning for the development of a qualification plan. Depression Working Group 2.0 is working toward qualification of 2 PRO measures, the Symptoms of Major Depressive Disorder Diary and the Symptoms of Major Depressive Disorder Momentary Assessment. Since April 2020, the working group met with FDA to discuss the SMDDD and the SMDDD-MA qualitative research cognitive interview report that was produced to assess these 2 measures, and we worked with FDA to refine the measures to move forward. After that, we began working on the qualification plan for the SMDDD, which is in progress, and we also received an FDA DDT research grant to develop the qualification plan for the SMDD-MA, which is also in progress. The Functional Dyspepsia Working Group is working toward qualification of the Functional Dyspepsia Symptom Diary, or FDSD. Since April 2020, we have prepared and submitted a qualification plan for the FDSD, and we are awaiting FDA feedback on that qualification plan. Irritable Bowel Syndrome, IBS Working Group. These are the other 2 measures that we are working toward qualification, the DIBS-D for diarrhea predominant IBS and the DIBS-M for mixed IBS. Since April 2020, we developed a briefing package on urgency as an endpoint in IBS-D for submission to FDA, which will be going in any day now, very soon. And we are working on 507 transition updates for both the DIBS-D and the DIBS-M. These are in progress. And once those are completed, we will be working on developing qualification plans for the DIBS-D and DIBS-M as our next step. The Multiple Sclerosis Working Group is working toward qualification of 2 PRO measures, the PROMIS Short Form version 1.0, Fatigue Multiple Sclerosis 8A, and the PROMIS NeuroQual Physical Function Measure for Multiple Sclerosis 15A. Since April 2020, we submitted the qualification plan for the PROMIS Fatigue MS 8A to FDA, and we are awaiting the response. And we received an FDA DDT research grant to develop the qualification plan for the PROMIS NeuroQual Physical Function MS 15A, which is in progress. Our Pediatric Asthma Working Group is working toward qualification of a PRO measure and an OBSERVA measure, the Pediatric Asthma Diary Observer, PAD-O, and the Pediatric Asthma Diary Child, or PAD-C. The initial development of these measures was conducted by Merck, and they were donated to the working group to move forward. Since April 2020, we initiated the cognitive interview study of both measures using a web-based video interview approach via Microsoft Teams, because we were not able to conduct these interviews in person as a result of the pandemic, which was very unfortunate, but we were able to move forward. And we have completed round 1 and 2 interviews with 10 children, 8 through 11 years old, and 20 parents, caregivers of children 4 through 11 years old. And so we are now in the process of gearing up to conduct round 3, which will be hopefully our final round of interviews for these 2 measures. The Rheumatoid Arthritis Working Group is working toward qualification of the PROMIS Fatigue Short Form 10A. And since April 2020, we've been working on the development of the full qualification package for that measure. The Small Cell Lung Cancer Working Group is working to leverage the work of the Non-Small Cell Lung Cancer Working Group and the member firms' individual efforts to qualify an SCLC core symptom measure. Since April 2020, the measure was accepted into the qualification program, a research partner was selected, and a qualitative research study is in progress to evaluate the non-small cell lung cancer symptom assessment questionnaire in persons with small cell lung cancer. So those are the highlights of the progress on the working groups. And we do have working group posters, which are available on the PRO Consortium web page shown here. And these will provide greater details on the progress each working group has made in the past year. They're already posted, so you're welcome to take a look. We also want to announce that the Rare Disease COA Consortium is being launched in late summer 2021. As we announced last year, c-path, along with NORD, received an FDA grant to establish this consortium, and the grant has been extended through August 2021. The first step was to establish the Rare Disease Subcommittee within the PRO Consortium to serve as an incubator for the new consortium. The goal of both the subcommittee and the new consortium is to address critical unmet measurement needs for assessing clinical benefit in rare disease drug development. The subcommittee has focused on the identification and evaluation of existing publicly available COAs with the potential to be used across rare diseases, to use as efficacy endpoints across rare diseases. Tomorrow afternoon, there will be a session diving into the activities of the Rare Disease Subcommittee in more detail. So please attend that if you're interested in rare diseases. In addition, we wanted to highlight 2 publications by c-path staff published in the past year. The first is on translation of ClinRO, PerFO, and OPSRO measures, and the second is on submission of ECOA documentation for ethics committee review. Both are available via open access at the links shown here. If you have any questions about the PRO Consortium update, please feel free to reach out to me, Sonya Eremenco, or Stephen Coons at the emails listed here.